Okay, great. All right, and Chris, what's the fastest way to load 50,000 rows from a CSV file? Like fastest runtime way or fastest way just to get it done because it's from a design time perspective?
From runtime.
Yeah, import Excel CSV is the most efficient step that we have. Actually, I have some. This is a place where I actually have some data. 1 second. Let me see if I could show you the time difference here. Just a moment. Import Excel product. No. Come on. Server performance testing results. Oh yeah, here we go. Sheet 1, compare, step compare. Here we go. This is some comparisons we did between a for each Excel, which is blue, import Excel, which is red, and import Excel CSV runtime, which is red, and import Excel CSV standard, which is yellow. And you can see that this is us doing like the far end is 10 million, is ingesting 10 million records. And on a CSV standard, it took about 136 seconds. So in the 10,000 range, you're in 127 milliseconds. These are milliseconds, not seconds, excuse me. So that would be 136 seconds. So yeah, import Excel CSV is going to be the quickest Excel or CSV import step that we have.
So you have runtime versus standard.
Yeah.
I'm confused. Are those different steps or?
They are, yep. Let me go ahead and I'll pull them up so we can talk through what they are. You
They
likely
seem to
don't need runtime.
They looked like they had very similar performance
They do.
results there.
Yeah, they do. So let's see. Import Excel. So here's import Excel CSV. What is this third one? By column name. That's new. I'm not familiar with that. And this is runtime. So on this one, this is the standard step. What you do is you specify your file type, and then you specify your output data type. So I'll just select account. And then your number of columns. So I'll say there's 12 columns. And then I have to actually go in, and it expects the column format to be identical every time. And so if the column order of the sheet is somehow indeterminate or variable, it can cause problems. So here, if I come in and I say column 1 is going to be my email address, and column 2 is going to be my created on date, and so on and so forth. I specify the mappings in this this dialog window here. With runtime, you'll actually see it gives you this list of mappings here. And here I can do build array, and here I can do build data. And now I can actually dynamically determine the column number for a particular field for my type. I still specify my type here. So now what this gives me is a flexibility to design some logic. Maybe I'm going to pull in the Excel sheet, and I'm going to get all the headers, and then I'm going to use the location of the headers to, the value of the header to determine the column number, so that I can abstract this flow from the ordering of the columns in the CSV. And so this gives me some more flexibility in terms of handling CSVs of indeterminate format that the standard one doesn't. If that makes any sense.
It does.
But they're both much faster than the for each Excel CSV step, which is what we see here taking substantially longer.
Now, in the runtime mapping, you have to declare, so you do have to declare an output type.
You do.
That's what I was fishing for.
Yep.
And the intent then is that the output type would be some database bound entity, or it doesn't have to be, it could be a flow structure, couldn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, it just has to be a defined type. Doesn't have to be database persistent. And
if it were database persistent, I would expect it to also save it to the database with a generated ID value.
It would, but it doesn't save. You'd have to like pass your result set to like a save entity step, right? Of the same type or some other bulk save step. So you could do like effectively your flow could be some, if all you were doing was just importing data, it could be something like this. Let's assume we're passing the file in, get file, convert to auth collection, pass collection into a database save step. This step will not save it itself. It'll just be data in the flow until you decide to save it, even if you're using a database persistent type.
Okay. And that save entities, so that save entities takes a list of that input for commit to database.
Mm-hmm. Though you may want to
And
look at one of the batch ones if it's a large set as well. Batch insert entities here would also take a type name in. And then it'll allow you to specify, batch size and some other configurations there.
yeah, I think batch insert entities is probably the safer route if I'm looking for something of size. Now I've never used it before. Is that batch insert entity step itself fully contained in terms of give it a list and it will do the save?
Yes, correct. It will, yes, correct. It takes in and does all of the saving into the database for you using more like in the batch size order here. So it would say, write 1,000 at a time.
Oh, I see.
Or whatever. Fire triggers. We do have some stuff here. Let me pull this over. Here's our docs for it. Specifies if any insert triggers execute during the operation.
So it looks like by default, if your entity has does that mean an SQL level insert trigger?
I believe so.
As opposed to like a, what are those? I'm trying to think, is it called like it's not an entity action, it's a entity.
No. This is, I believe you can maybe specify batch insert SQL avoid triggers. Is that a thing? Modify SQL trigger work. Trigger fire during the bulk insert. Go ahead.
I was about to say, I have seen in some of the SQL Server operations, for example, I've seen people do command where they will command, turn off triggers.
Yeah.
Do a whole bunch of things and then re-enable triggers as a way of saving overhead.
Yeah.
At the SQL side.
That's what it looks like. I've never seen that before. I'm not familiar with this, but it looks like the command can allow you to, I guess you can, because theoretically, if you were allowing the triggers to fire, you're going to create that execution dependency on the insert. So looks like you can, the destination table can, I guess, depress, not the right word, but what is it? What do they call it in Destiny when you can't use your powers? Whatever,
Depression?
Yeah, maybe, but like, yeah, can prevent those triggers from firing based on the true or false of that Boolean.
Well, like I say, I'm familiar with like an opening command of disable triggers on this table. Now, do stuff and then re-enable triggers. I don't know if, now that was, admittedly 15 years ago. I don't know if these database engines now let you do it, say at a transaction level, but or a connection level, but I'm just a little unclear about that. So there were a couple of other of those batch inserts. If I'm looking to just insert, 50,000, and so maybe, put them in groups of 1,000, is that standard batch insert entity step perhaps the?
Oh yeah, we've done significantly larger numbers than that. Like in tens or hundreds of thousands.
And
in
the
fact,
audit
like
queue
some of our, oh, sorry, go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to ask if the audit queue and save pending, what's the, what was the motivation for those steps?
These are a little bit stranger. These ones are so this is like you're looping through building up a list, right? So this design is something closer to this, like this one. These are kind of strange steps. So you're like, let's assume you're fetching something, you're looping through it, and then like you're batch inserting, right?
Mhm.
And what this does is instead of it being, it's just on time. So in our example, we've been using account. So you're building up an in-memory list here, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
by passing in the entity here, and then every 5 minutes, it's going to bulk insert that whole list into the database, right?
Oh, okay.
And then this one on the done path completes all of them. So any pending
Oh,
ones get patched. So like it's equivalent, I guess, to doing batch size. It's just it's based on the time, the duration. So any account object in this list whose age is over 5 minutes will be pulled from the list and batch inserted.
all right. That's, yeah, that's not something I would use every day for sure, but I
Mm-mm.
can kind of see where you're going with that.
Yeah, it looks
So
like batch insert entities probably gives you more control, and is probably not that I have really thought through this, but looking at these two steps side by side, this seems easier to control.
it
Yeah,
almost looks like I would do the import of some flavor, and then instead of having done going to save entities, have it go to batch insert.
right. Yeah, exactly right. Like it would replace here,
Yeah,
and then it would bulk, insert 1,000 at a time for your 50,000.
right. But at the end of it, everything's in the database, and um, I can now deal with it in that fashion.
Yeah, exactly. Correct.
I think
And
that's the
that should be,
pair.
this should be very efficient. This should handle large CSVs very gracefully.
Right. It's funny. I was compelled to do a sort of a load from file, at in a hurry. So I did it with a for each style,
Hmm.
and I warned, hey, this thing's not going to scale. Within a week, someone's trying to load 20,000, 25,000 records, and it breaks at the magic number of 20,000.
Yep.
It's like, well,
Here's some numbers too. This is not directly related because this is with external databases. But here,
mhm,
if you look at the difference in time for our normal insert versus the bulk insert step we have for SQL integrations, this is 1,000,000 records here. So a normal insert takes 14 minutes to do 1,000,000, and the bulk insert takes 16 seconds to do 1,000,000. So orders of magnitude difference here, because this insert is actually doing each one individually as a separate connection, and the bulk insert is slamming them all together and doing and so this is in a single insert statement. You can see here we can do 10,000 at a time in less than a second. It takes about 100,000 for us to get into the second range of execution time, and this is a bulk insert to an external database. So we should see similar behavior for the local DB in terms of performance difference between, like you could imagine this is the save entities versus, and
right.
this is that batch insert step here.
Yeah, I've seen similar gains by um, everyone's favorite programming frameworks have parallel things that do this, and you get the same story when you're doing large amounts. If you can put it into like a bulk or a batch arrangement,
Right,
even if you go from 1 to 1,000, just do like a modest group of 1,000,
right.
the jump in performance is tremendous.
Yeah, I mean, those handshakes and connection calls at volume do really add up, right?
Hmm.
Versus, if you're only doing one connection for 1,000 versus 1,000 connections for 1,000, those couple tens of milliseconds really add up after a while.
And now that I have another hurry project where they say, yeah, and now we want to load, potentially 50,000 from a file. I find myself saying, okay, now I don't want to make the mistake where I have this chronic problem now of users saying it's slow.
Right.
Well, that's because you guys are hitting it with big files, and
Mhm.
what can I tell you?
Yep. Yeah. The
We
for
didn't
each Excel
engineer for that.
CSV does get pretty sluggish at anything over large volume. So it is very easy to use, though. That's the trade-off. Very
Right.
fast to implement. These steps take a little bit more time to set up, but are much quicker from at runtime.
All right. I think that answers. That
Okay.
tells me how I'm going to take care of this next project.
All right. You bet. All
Thanks.
right, and you bet, man. And all right, Wade is up. Is there a step that opens a URL? There is, and you would never find it without asking, unfortunately. So inform
That's my
session.
problem is I searched URL, I searched link, hyperlink, everything I could think of, the word I could think of.
Open URL. Oh, if you we do have, maybe check the step, just as a note, we do have a step library section on the site, doc site.
Oh, okay.
Maybe that'd be a good place to look here, but notwithstanding, in the application itself, we're not doing you any favors currently, but there's a step called inform session, and there's an option here to open URL. You can either put a static or dynamic URL there, and then specify if you want it to be in a new tab or not, with this checkbox.
Okay. And it's just an inform because if you're opening a tab, you're assuming they're at the end of the form, they're going to leave the flow.
Yeah, effectively, right? Like,
Okay.
yes, maybe at the conclusion of a mortgage workflow, it takes you to the home site of the portal or something like that, right? You could redirect
right.
the user's browser session to that.
Okay. And what these, you clicked on their pick or create inform or base inform?
It's an inform session.
Inform session. Okay.
Yeah, it's different than a normal informs job is just to show, is really just a user interface. It just shows you a pop-up while the flow continues on. Whereas an inform session has behaviors that can, it can open URLs, it can send you to a different part of the portal. You can use it to pass custom parameters to a report downstream that you navigate to. So you could have someone like run a flow, or do something on a form, submit some, select some values, which are filters for a report, and then go to that report with those filters applied. It has a bunch of, it can just display a message.
Okay.
It can do a bunch of different things.
Okay. That's great. Yeah. Oh, and just a little add on to the end. Yeah. Searching, I always search string equals in there, but if you search string, it doesn't come up because string equals in the way the step is worded is one word. I just thought that was odd.
Yeah. It's a little strange.
Because there's 3 string equals that are two are separated.
Yeah.
One isn't.
Yeah, that's just something we need to some of it, yeah. Right now you should have 2. It might be that someone has created one as well, like, because this will include custom rules or custom subflows as well.
If that's one word, does one come up?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
what the heck is this?
Yeah.
Oh, see, this is a custom rule, right? So edit string equals. So this is a rule, string 1 equals string 2. Now the question is this in a decisions core? It's not, but it might come. We might have added this inadvertently.
Oh, okay. I say that's on mine. That's what I keep trying to search that one, and I keep forgetting, like, oh yeah, it's one word, and it's because I just type in string expecting it to come up. Can I edit the name of that in my instance, and it will?
Yes, 100%. Okay. Let's find it really quick since it's on my local too. Okay, there's string equals. Let's right click, manage, open containing folder. Oh, look at that. We're in the wizards create user. There is a flow here called string equals. It's part of decisions core. So that's wonderful. But yeah, you could come here and edit this to be, you shouldn't use this like for anything.
Oh, okay. Whoops.
Yourself.
It's already in a bunch of stuff already.
Yeah, but if you edited that and then we came back to where we were, which is what, lunch and learn 424, below one. Now we search for string equals. It should show us both, all three. Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But I would use the default rules here. You don't need a custom rule for this. You could just use case insensitive, or I usually just use advanced because I can toggle case sensitivity on and off here. And then this is, while I'm sure the volumes of things probably don't matter here, given the microseconds, this will be faster as it doesn't have to actually call a whole rule engine to do a simple string check.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, thank you.
You bet. All right, anybody else got any questions for us today? Mm. There you go. String equals do not use. Okay, looks like Wade just hopped off. So Chris and Vitaly, you guys are the only two left. So let me know if you have anything. Otherwise, we'll just call it a day. All righty, cool. All right, thanks everybody. Have a great day. We will see you same time tomorrow.